Hi, everyone, and welcome to a new episode of Interview with the Manager, brought to you by PrepMyHire. PrepMyHire is a platform that connects real managers with candidates so they can be better prepared for their next career level. We collaborate with a diverse group of managers that resonate with our mission and vision. Decode the interview process by performing resume reviews, mock interviews, and discussion about career reconversion in a stress-free environment. Check out our website, PrepMyHire.com, our LinkedIn, or our Facebook page to get the news firsthand. Today, we're thrilled to have a discussion with Sofia Chaves. Sofia started her career in Costa Rica, where she's originally from. She has an extensive experience in contract management field, currently working as a contract manager for a top corporation. 5 years ago, she and her family relocated to the US to take on a new job opportunity. She uses her positive attitude and her energy to encourage her team to succeed. In 2019, she has been recognized with the Leadership Award, and last year she has been granted the IACCM contract certification. Sofia is inspired daily by her family and enjoys learning new skills, languages, and exercising. So from one Sofia to another, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me, Sophia. As usual, as always, it's a pleasure discussing these kinds of topics with you.
Same here. So you are an expat. So what would you say, what is an expat to begin with?
I would say an expat is someone who left their home country to fulfill their career somewhere else.
Awesome.
Yeah.
A lot of the trend right now is to move from one country to another. So this is pretty common, more common than one would think. And as someone who moved abroad, how was your experience when you transitioned in your current role in the US?
Well, it was a very interesting experience. It involves lots of emotions. I didn't move by myself. I have a family, so it was it was a really long process. And related to work, the center where I used to work, the location was being transferred to the US. So I remember one day after we were notified that the center was being closed, getting a call from one of the managers, the directors here in the US, telling me about a position, a job opportunity. And that's when it all started. And then applying to the position, the whole interview process, the whole, immigration process, even that, and getting ready once I was selected for the position to move along with my family.
Awesome. And what differences have you seen between the Costa Rica market and where you were working and the US market?
Yeah, thank you. This is a great question. And having worked for American companies in either country, the hiring process, I've found that it's not that different. But what I have seen is that in Costa Rica, there's a concentration of international or multinational companies in the metropolitan area. So this means that the labor market fluctuates a lot, with employees moving rapidly, shifting jobs between all of these options that they have. That's one of the main differences.
Yeah, that's a good point. Normally, when that happens, there's also a lot of the market is very competitive.
Yes.
That creates also a lot of movement from one part to the other. And how did your experience in your home country translated to the new role?
Okay, there are two aspects that I consider are important when preparing to work abroad. The first one is your ability to adapt to the new environment, to the company's culture. And the second one is your ability to fulfill the job that you are applying to. So in regards to the first one, when I applied to the position in the US, I already had more than 10 years experience in American companies. So that helped me adapt to the American corporate culture more easily. The second aspect, well, the job I took in the US was for the same company I was working at in Costa Rica. So I kind of had some advantage, and I got to use my experience within the same industry, the same area I was already working at.
And you know, that was a very fortunate scenario. What would you say though, that if you would have to like pick transferable skills for somebody transitioning and moving, especially with a whole family, how would you apply those skills in that transition?
Yes. So if I had to pick two skills, I would say resilience. Resilience, well, it to adapt to the change overall, not only the change in work environment, but in life itself, and proactivity. By being proactive, organizing everything you have to organize and put together, to move to another country, especially bringing the family with you. Well, if you're proactive rather than reactive, it'll take you a long way in anything you take on. It helps you to be prepared.
So can you give us an example? Like how did you prepare? What did you have to keep in mind?
Well, it was a lot, I remember. I had a 6-year-old at that time. So for example, I had to, okay, where are we gonna live? First of all, and second, what schools are in that area? Are these schools, do these schools have a dual language program? Because he had some English basics, but you know, he would need guidance, of course. Where are we gonna stay the first few days when we don't have a home yet? Or do we have a real estate agent who can help us like work on this before we even move? How about the transportation situation? And on top of all of that, taking into consideration your start date, like when you actually have to be at the office. So there's a lot of preparation, a lot of things that you need to be organizing in the weeks, even, I don't know, months before the actual date that you have to move. Yes.
So it sounds to me that you kind of start with the end in mind and kind of build backwards in a way. That's what I'm hearing. Definitely a lot of planning, because sometimes
Yes.
I think we hear a lot of people moving from one state to another, from one country to another, but it does not seem to be as easy.
No, it's not. It's a whole journey. It's a whole journey, and yeah, you need to be prepared.
Awesome. So this happened 5 years ago, and since then you've been a manager here. And we can move to the recruiting experience here. I'm curious to ask you, you know, in your opinion, is it an advantage or a disadvantage that you have English as your second language?
I definitely think it is an advantage because it opens so many doors and gives you so many more opportunities. During these 5 years here, what I have seen and experienced in the US is that most of the people don't speak a second language. Locals, you know, I've seen that they don't speak a second language. Even those who have the opportunity to learn it at home, because of their parents or grandparents, they don't do it. So it is one more skill that you have to your favor.
That's great. Did that skill influence in the way you transitioned?
It did. So in Costa Rica, I used to support the North American market or part of the department. Like we supported North American cases. When I moved to the US, I was hired to support the Latin America region. So it 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 gave me an advantage to have another language, because well, I'm supporting all these countries that speak Spanish, and then you have an opportunity to learn even a third language, Portuguese, for example.
What I'm hearing is that it actually opens the horizon in a way and
It
can
does.
make a difference when you are transitioning to a different country.
Yeah, it definitely does. Yes.
That is great to hear. And when you hire, so this is all about how you got here, but when you hire, when you look at the resume, what is the first thing that kind of catches your eye in the first minute?
Okay. In the very first minute, when I see a resume, I like to see that it has good grammar and punctuation, that it is well organized, so that you can notice as a hiring manager how much effort the applicant put into the resume. Of course, later I will look at other details, but that's what catches my attention in the very first minute.
And what do you mean by it was prepared? Like how do you check that? What to see the connection, or if somebody gets prepared for that specific role?
Okay, so for example, like after looking at this, like grammar, punctuation, or organization overall in the resume, I want to see that they did their investigation, like what is it that I'm applying to? And let's say that it's an IT position, for example, and I have a background in IT, but I studied arts, for example. What is relevant to add in the resume? Should I add, like if they add their studies and experience in art, but that's not relevant for me as a hiring manager, what I want to see is that, okay, they know what they're applying to, and they tailor the resume and accommodate it to the position that they're applying to.
That makes a lot of sense. And once you're in the interview process, did you see any like no-nos that you would say, just be careful for these items?
Yes, yeah. In no particular order, and top 3 no-nos for me would be talking too much. Like it's okay, if they ask you a question, you give an answer, but if you continue like going on and on, well, that's one of those. Not being informed, and this is related to the other question we just discussed, not being informed or aware of the role you're applying to, or even the company. Like if you're applying to a company and they ask you, okay, what do we do here? Like, what's our main business? And you're not informed of that, you didn't prepare. And not being dressed appropriately.
Oh, interesting.
Yes.
Interesting. Thank you. That summarizes pretty much the top 3. And on the other spectrum, is there a question that you got from a candidate that you thought, oh, this is a very good question?
I did. I've gotten interesting and good questions during interviews. And one that really stood out for me is when I was asked what I enjoyed the most about working in that company. And why is that? I think it's a question that will help the candidate know if the company's culture or environment aligns with their own values. And it will help them make a smart career decision. Is this the company I want to work for or not?
Do you think that these values are impacted sometimes also by the culture?
Yes, I do. Yes.
Mm. Very, I think this is also a topic that's not all the time highlighted, how important it is to resonate with the company, because a lot of the times candidates think that only the manager needs to pick, but it's also the candidate that needs to assess if they would feel good and resonate with that company as well.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
thank you for bringing that. It's a good point. And I know that since you came here, your family grew, and as a mother, I wanted to ask you, how do you maintain that balance between family and work?
Okay, sorry. I have a little cold and I was coughing, so I had to mute myself. My family is my priority, Sofia, but at the same time, I take pride that I'm a working mother and that I have worked hard in building the career that I have built. Obviously, during the day, during working hours, I focus on my work and I try to organize the day so that I can, at the end of the day, spend time with my family and have time for myself, because that's very important for me too, after work. Also, I found how having a good physical exercise routine helps me maintain a good balance and mental health. Like, that's a big deal for me.
That's a good point. I think if you're good, then everybody else is good. Is there a particular routine or something that you do for yourself?
Yes, so I enjoy very much working early in the mornings to work out every day. It helps me throughout the day. Like, if I don't do it, it's not that I won't have a good day, but I've noticed the difference. It makes a really, really big difference in how I perform during the day, and my energy levels overall.
That makes sense. Thank you for sharing that, and talking about your experience. I would want to ask, kind of like a closing remark, if you have any advice for anyone looking to live and work abroad, what would be your advice for them?
Yes. Okay, looking back at my experience, I would say be proactive in how you prepare yourself, not only when you apply to a job, but if you have the opportunity to move and work somewhere else. Do your research, build up your resume, seek for guidance, and take advantage of the tools. Go to PrepMyHire.com to and take advantage of that as well.
Thank you so much, and I really appreciate it. It's great to have you on board, and really like to collaborate and create exactly this kind of conversations, because people have been through like a number of experiences, and that's the whole purpose of us also sharing the information today. Is this is kind of how the conversations go, and we are looking to create a similar dialogue and to help people pivot for their new beginnings, even if that's a career or it's a new resume or it's a new job. So
Yes.
thank you so much for sharing all the experience and the time. Again, thank you so much for joining, and
Of course.
talk to you soon.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, Sophia. Yeah,
Thank
thank you so
you.
much.